Good Wednesday evening to you. Work week is half done. Thanks for joining More Sports and Les Levine. I'm Dave Bacon. We will be joining Les Levine, who is with Scott Longert, who has written a book about the 1920 world champion Indians. They'll be along in just a few minutes, but we're going to start out by talking Browns. The Browns will travel to Tennessee. The Titans 5.5-point favorites. Both the Browns and the Titans 8-3. Third best record in the AFC, tied with the Buffalo Bills for that third best record, are the Titans and the Browns. Browns have played themselves right into the middle of the AFC playoff picture, and a big reason why has been the running game, led by that strong offensive line.
It's a great feeling, as a young player. I haven't experienced, a lot of success, and it's really cool to see, 8-3 in the city of Cleveland, and we're playing well, and see if we can keep on playing well and, play up to our competition and, win some games down the road. I mean, this is the NFL. You're always going to give your best effort, especially when you have good running backs like that. And great offensive linemen, Joel, JC, Jack, and Jed. I mean, we have a great group and, are gaining chemistry. It says that it takes, years to gain chemistry among the offensive line. You can see that we're playing well off of each other. There's times where, you will go against a really good player and he might make a bad matchup, but, for the most part, we play well and we're smooth and we can play off of each other. And, I think that helps the running backs. And one thing that makes us look better is having really good running backs. So it's a good problem to have. And, with our group, it helps.
Wyatt Teller, Browns guard, has been playing outstanding, missed a couple of games back in there, and has been a big reason that Nick Chubb and Kareem Hunt have had the seasons that they have. Well, the Browns are scheduled to get Myles Garrett back on the defensive side of the ball. That should certainly help against the Titans. Derrick Henry and company. Henry, a big bruising back as well. Garrett was online to potentially have a Defensive Player of the Year type season before he went on that COVID restricted list a couple weeks ago. He is back and figures to be a big, big addition to the Browns defense. Now, Titans quarterback Ryan Tannehill, very familiar with Myles Garrett, and he knows how much problem Garrett can be.
Yeah, I have so much respect for Myles. Obviously, followed him since his time at A&M. He got there right after I left, or a couple years after I left. So, watched him grow in his time at A&M and make huge plays for the Aggies. And then obviously, once he's gotten to the league, he's continued to develop and, he's one of the top edge rushers that we have in the game right now. So a ton of respect for him and what he's able to do. He's a generational type talent with his size and speed and athleticism. So definitely a ton of respect for him. But at the end of the day, I just have to go play my game and trust the guys around me to protect me.
His skill set, I think his natural God-given ability of just length, athleticism, speed, power, body control, body lean. He's forced 4 fumbles. And he's got a great skill set. And I think as you watch him, he's just continued to, just have an understanding of his improved instincts, when to come under, when to be able to corner. I think some of the times you struggle as a pass rusher. You always hear, hey, don't be behind the quarterback, don't be behind the quarterback. And I think with him, he has an ability to take that edge and be able to corner and turn and reach for the football. So very, very similar to a player like Simeon Rice. I remember always watching him corner and be able to get the football out, but never be too far behind the quarterback.
And without question, this matchup between the Titans and the Browns features 3 of the NFL's top running backs. Derrick Henry for the Titans, Nick Chubb and Kareem Hunt for the Cleveland Browns. Time for us to take a quick break. On the other side of that break, we'll hear what the opposition thinks about those talented running backs. More sports and Les Levine. We'll be right back after this quick timeout.
It takes attention to detail. With your local Bryant dealer, you're getting more than just a technician. You're getting someone who pays attention to your needs and the little things that make a big difference. It takes a dealer you can rely on. And to keep your family warm this winter,
here, let me show you how this works.
It takes Bryant.
Bryant. Whatever it takes. And to keep your family comfortable, it takes Smiley One Heating and Cooling. Find them at smiley1.com.
More sports and Les Levine continues. Les will be joining us with Scott Leiner, talking about the 1920 Indians in just a few minutes. We're going to continue talking about the Browns and the Titans game, though. Offensively, the Titans' offense is a lot like the Browns. Very good offensive line play, and they run the football extremely well. A power running game. Northeast Ohio native, head coach of the Titans, Mike Vrabel, had a huge appreciation for the Browns' offensive line and the job Kevin Stefanski is doing. He was asked about Nick Chubb's ability to run the ball really well in the fourth quarter.
I think he's pretty effective early in games, Troy. I mean, I just think he's really good. I think both those guys are excellent, very good players. Vision, strength, lower body strength. They break tackles. They stretch, cut. They have the ability to get the edge. It's just that, sitting there watching them, it's like you forget sometimes that you got to find ways to stop them because you kind of like the way they play and the way that these guys are blocking for them up front.
And you mentioned the guys up front blocking for him. Wyatt Teller and Jack Conklin especially, they use them a lot in pooling and things like that. What stands out when you see how Conklin's been playing this season, being as though he's a former player of yours?
I mean, Jack did a lot of good stuff here, and now we'll have to go against him. It's like a lot of other players that move on to other places. Jack's continued to work and develop, and he's missed games. He functions well in that scheme. It's similar to some of the stuff that we asked him to do, and then Wyatt Teller's a young player that plays aggressive and finishes, and he's got really good play demeanor for an offensive lineman.
That is Titans head coach Mike Vrabel, who is a Walsh Jesuit alum. Well, Kevin Stefanski feels the Titans are a complete football team. They featured Derrick Henry, NFL's leading rusher. To put in perspective how much of a workhorse Henry is, Henry has about as many carries as Nick Chubb and Kareem Hunt combined, a few more yards and some more touchdowns than the Browns combo. But he is without question a beast, and one that any defense has to figure out a way to stop.
You got to tackle. You have to have 11 hats around the ball. He's outstanding. He is physical. He's fast. He's just an outstanding running back. Everybody knows that. You watch the tape. But so it's a big challenge. You have to be sound and disciplined in your run fits, and you have to gang tackle.
With his physical presence, do you go pads for a day this week, just kind of to gear up for that?
I mean, we do, just because it's every week. These things are battles, but the players understand the physical affair that it's going to be on Sunday. I really think I really believe it's having 11 guys on defense at the ball. It's not one person's job to try to stop Derrick Henry. He's too good of a player, so we have to take it upon ourselves as a defense to make sure we're gap sound, deliberate about our run fits, and then we got to get multiple people around the ball. They have a great running back. They have really a great complement of receivers, tight ends, backs. The quarterback's playing at a high level. They're physical up front. Defensively, I think the scheme is outstanding. They play multiple fronts, multiple coverages. They disguise. They really keep you on your toes. I think they do an outstanding job. I think it's a really, really good special teams unit. Multiple challenges for us on that side. And then ultimately they're plus 11 in the turnover margin. So they do a great job of taking care of the ball. I think they have the fewest giveaways in the NFL. And then I know defensively they are very much trying to get the ball out. They're stripping. They're getting their hands on balls. So they do a great job. It'll be a big challenge going down there to Tennessee, trying to find a way to win.
And one of the keys, without question, facing the Titans with the Browns is going to be that turnover battle. Baker Mayfield has done a really good job of taking care of the football. Hasn't thrown an interception in his last 4 games. Also threw 2 touchdown passes against the Jaguars. Kevin Stefanski alluded to it. The Titans plus 11 in the giveaway takeaway. The Browns are plus 6. Baker Mayfield has been taking care of the ball and doing what the Browns need him to do to win football games.
Yeah, it's a big deal. It's going to be a big deal this week, again, versus a team that's plus 11. I think, Tom, you got to always, as a quarterback, straddle that fine line of being aggressive and smart. And I think he's done a nice job the last few weeks. And even in that last game, he threw some tight window balls that had to be perfect, and they were. So I think he's doing a nice job in that regard.
Just more of a maturity thing, just more of a better understanding of his capabilities? How would you quantify that or qualify that?
Yeah, I think he's doing a nice job in the meeting room, on the practice field, and that carries over to the games. I think Alex Van Pelt does a great job with all the quarterbacks and stressing the importance of that rock.
Most important game for the Cleveland Browns in a long, long time. 8-3 Browns, 8-3 Titans, both of them tied along with the Bills for third best record in the AFC. Kickoff 1 o'clock on Sunday. On the other side of the break, we will have Les Levine and Scott Leinert talking 1920 Indians. It was back when the Indians were champions of the world in baseball. More sports and Les Levine will continue. Les Levine straight ahead after this break.
When it comes to selling you a mattress, most retailers are handing you a line. A long line of extra steps that drive up costs and create confusion. At the Original Mattress Factory, we simplify the mattress shopping experience by building mattresses and box springs in our own local factories and selling them direct to you. It's short, sweet, and simply makes sense. So experience more than just the mattress store. Experience an original, the Original Mattress Factory.
From the worldwide headquarters of More Sports and Les Levine, it's baseball time again. It must be. Scott Longert is here. We're going to talk Cleveland Indians baseball stuff even you didn't know. I didn't know. Mike Bacon didn't know. But we're learning. We're learning.
Good.
Scott Longert, noted historian of the Cleveland Indians. How does one get that title?
I'm not sure where it came from. It just happened to be there.
You are loaded with books here.
Yep.
Tell me, the first one I assume was the championship year of 1920?
Yeah.
What got you to start thinking, I think I'll write that book?
Well, a number of things. When I was very young, I read Glory of Their Times from Larry Ritter, and a lot of it centered on that era. And I knew the Indians had won the series in 1920, and plus they didn't win another one for 28 years. So that's pretty important. That they, I wondered what happened in 1920.
By the way, for those who don't know, that was a 9-game series.
Yes, it was.
In 1920.
You had to win 5.
Indians won 5-2.
Yeah, they were able to do that. Yeah, they swept 4 games in a row to do that. Yeah.
We're jumping ahead of myself here, but that one game, and you'll have to correct me on which game it was, had some of the most amazing feats happen. You had a grand slam by a pitcher. You had an unassisted triple play by Bill Wamby.
Yeah.
And something else happened.
Well, actually, Jim Bagby, the pitcher, hit a 3-run homer. Elmer Smith hit the grand slam in the first inning.
Right.
And these were all firsts. No one had done these things in a World Series before. So the Indians did 3 things like that no one had ever heard of or expected in one ball game, which was just
Where's the videotape to prove it?
Yeah, I've been looking for the tape. I haven't seen it.
What kind of crowds did they have at League Park, for example? Sat about 25, 26,000?
Yeah, they could squeeze it in. They squeezed a couple more thousand in. They put up some temporary stands. I think they had as many as about 27 plus they were able to squeeze in for each game of the series.
If I remember, the owner of the Indians gave up one of the games so that he could get 4 at Cleveland. Then he was supposed to have the home field advantage, and he said, no, I'd rather have the extra game.
Yeah, they wanted those 4 games in town. They kind of were thinking to take 1 or 2 in Brooklyn, then sweep it home. They thought they could do that. They didn't want to go back to. They didn't want to end the series in Brooklyn no matter what. Right. So they wanted to try and win it here in town.
Name some names from that 20 season, because you're talking about a baseball encyclopedia here.
Oh yeah, the number 1 is Tris Speaker, probably one of the greatest outfielders of all time, greatest hitters. Stan Kovaleski, Hall of Famer, won 3 in the World Series.
His picture's on the wall of Progressive Field.
Yeah.
The upper deck.
Oh, yeah, he's up there. He was a tremendous pitcher. Elmer Smith, the Grand Slam home run guy. Bill Wamby, another tremendous guy. Good second baseman, other than that play in the World Series. Larry Gardner, a great third baseman. Jim Bagby, 31-game winner. Bill, I mentioned Wamby. Jack Rainey wasn't a starter, but he contributed out there.
For those who think, where have I heard that name before? He was really the first Indians baseball play-by-play guy on radio.
Actually, he replaced Tom Manning was the first.
Right.
And they lost, I forgot which station he was, but WHK won the rights, and they had Graney. So
it almost didn't matter because in those days, if you wanted to be the Indians radio station, you just showed up. 4 or 5 radio stations did the games.
Yeah, they it wasn't that hard to get the rights, but WHK had the main ones, I think, for a long time.
Right. Scott Longert is with us. So you decided to write this book. And did you think there'd be interest other than you doing it for your own interest? Did you think there'd be baseball historians out there who felt the same way about that team? Because it's a historic team.
Yeah, I was hoping there would be interest in it because, and there was a lot more to it. We had, of course, Ray Chapman being the tragedy with him, and the Yankees chasing us with a young Babe Ruth just hitting home runs everywhere. The White Sox, the guys had not been suspended. So in 1920, they were just playing regular baseball with Joe Jackson. They were tremendous. So you had 3 teams capable of winning. It was pretty exciting.
When the White Sox, who became known as the Black Sox, when they traveled around the country, did people boo them? I mean, was it sort of like Houston Astros, Boston Red Sox these days?
Not to that extent at all, if it happened. Because I think there was a mixed opinions whether or not they threw the series through much of the year. Then later, it would come out. But I think some people said, well, maybe they did, maybe they didn't. So they didn't come under tremendous scrutiny from
Where
the
do you
fans.
stand on Shoeless Joe?
It's a tough one. I think because he did initially take money, that probably keeps him out.
Claims he didn't know what the money was for.
Yeah, he claimed, but there was another side to Joe that I've read about, that he was, even though he couldn't read or write, he was a fairly sharp guy. He knew what was happening. He was a fancy dresser. He drove a sports car. So he may have knew what was happening. Then he had a change of heart, said, I don't want anything to do with this, but it was too late because he already had taken money and everybody knew it. And I think that had he refused it and said, I want nothing to do with it, I think, he was completely innocent and he should be in the hall.
You mentioned there might have, for the World Series, they squeezed in 28,000. What about on a Tuesday afternoon in July? What would they draw?
Probably more about 10, 12. Weekends would be sellouts, doubleheaders, sellouts, holiday games, decent crowds on the weekdays.
How much would a box seat cost?
Box seat, I think was $1.25.
That's it?
Yeah, about maybe $1.50 tops, yeah.
Wow.
To get in, yeah. So it wasn't, though you pretty much had to ride the trolley to get there because they, on purpose, Jim Dunn, actually the guy before, Mr. Robeson, who built the park, did not leave room for carriages. He wanted people to ride the subway or the trolley because he owned the lines. So he was getting revenue from the trolley lines and the streetcars well as the admittance.
They were also giving out free tickets to school kids.
Yeah, they did
almost
a lot
every
of that.
game, right?
Yeah, quite a bit of that. Yeah, they and Jim Dunn would honor that. Even in 1920, when the Yankees were coming to town for a crucial series, Dunn was traveling, so the guys in front office put ads in the papers that, sorry kids, you can't use your ticket for Saturday's game, we'll make it for another. Dunn came into town and said, what do you mean? And he went in the paper and had said, forget that, I don't care. I want the kids to come in for free and see Babe Ruth hit a home run. So he gave up, I think he let in 10,000 kids. He gave up probably 15,000, 16,000 in revenue because he was a man of his word. He wanted the kids to see the ball game.
Am I correct that Babe hit his 500th homer at Lake Park?
He did. He hit it off Willis Hudlin, and it was one of those games where the place was packed because Babe came into town with .498. He hit .499 on Friday, so everybody tried to get in on Saturday to see him hit it, and he did.
It's interesting. I saw Ted Williams hit his 500th at Municipal Stadium off Win Hawkins, and they didn't make a big deal about it at all.
Yeah, back then it was, people were astounded that Babe had hit 400.
Yeah.
Nobody thought he'd get anywhere near 5, and he did. So everybody wanted to see it happen. They thought no one would ever do it again.
Let's take a break. We'll come on back. Scott Longert is here. He's written several books on the history of the Cleveland Indians. Some glory times, some not so glory times, right?
Definitely, yeah, some downtime.
More sports and less Levine continues exclusively on cleveland.com.
Presque Isle Downs and Casino has sports betting. Use one of our 50 state-of-the-art Bet America kiosks to place your bet and watch your favorite games on one of our many HD televisions or visit our sportsbook area. Only at Presque Isle Downs and Casino.
Do you like Ohio State football? Would you like to get information from me, Doug Lesmerises, about Ohio State football without having to look at my face? We have got the plan for you. Become an Ohio State text subscriber through cleveland.com. You send a text, 614-350-3315. What do you get? 2, 3, 4 texts right in your phone every day about Ohio State football. Inside information, polls, voting, all kinds of things. You can be on our podcast. We take text subscriber questions on our Buckeye Talk podcast every week. If you really want to be involved with Ohio State football, in season or out of season, become an Ohio State text subscriber from cleveland.com. Send a text to 614-350-3315. 14-day free trial. What do you have to lose? $3.99 a month after that. 614-350-3315. I'll see you in your phone.
Tri-C is here for you. Now more than ever, you need a post-secondary education. So I encourage you to start your journey here at Tri-C. The majority of fall classes will take place online, but we've added a variety of formats to meet your learning needs, and we've taken many steps to keep you safe on campus. Whether you're ready to get started or your four-year plans have changed, Tri-C is where futures begin.
The Ohio Lottery Partners in Education program recognizes role model students and teachers from across Ohio. Nominations can now be done completely online. To nominate a deserving teacher or student, go to ohiolottery.com. In the About section, find Partners in Education. There you will find links to the nomination forms. Students kindergarten through 12th grade can be academic all-stars. Teachers can be honored as a Teacher of the Month. The Ohio Lottery Partners in Education, where stars shine.
Scott Longert is with us. He's a noted baseball historian. Were you just an Indians guy, or baseball in particular, or are there other guys around the country like you doing the same sort of thing?
Yeah, I'm an Indians guy first, baseball second. I'm sure guys all around the country, same thing. I was starting to follow the Indians when I was 5. My grandpa always had them on radio, and I spent a lot of time at my grandpa's house. And he was totally into it. So of course, I wanted to be like my grandpa. So I got totally, and all of a sudden the names started hitting, and I got curious about names, and I was hooked by the time I was in kindergarten.
I had an uncle who helped me with math. He taught me, if I struggled in math, he taught me about how to figure batting averages and things like that. I'm sure I'm not the only one who had that done.
Oh, sure, yeah. I still do it today. I play around with batting averages and earned run averages and things. And I got a couple of great nephews, probably going to help them along those lines eventually.
Scott Longert is here. He's written several Indians books, the one we just talked about. But also you've got, the one I like, you got the picture of the Indians team in 1921.
The guys.
When they wore special uniforms after winning in 1920.
Yeah, they have some world champions.
World champions on the front instead of Cleveland or Indians or whatever.
Yeah, that was Jim Dunn was so proud of everything. He insisted on doing that, even though that wasn't protocol or necessary.
Should have been.
Should have been, yeah. But he wanted them to represent everywhere they went. So on the road, they always wore the world champions jerseys.
All right, so 1920, the Indians win. You came in August. You had the tragedy with Ray Chapman, and it's kind of amazing they came back from that.
They nearly didn't. As soon as it happened, they had to play a game in New York and finish the series. They won it amazingly. They came home. The funeral was a Friday morning. They got on a train to Boston. They dropped a doubleheader. They dropped about 4 in a row, and things looked really bad. But one of the guys on the train, they were all talking, said, Ray would never want us to quit. He'd want us to go ahead and win it. Why don't we win this for Ray? And the guys just rallied, thought, yeah, you're right. Ray wants us to do it. And they got back in the right frame of mind, and they went ahead and got hot in September and won it.
He was a popular guy with the fans and the team. How good of a player was he?
He was an excellent shortstop. I'd say the best in the American League. He had great range from what I could read. Also, he could go way out in the outfield and run down pop flies in no man's land, and a really good arm. And he was a great base stealer, a great bunter. When he died, he was hitting 300 and had about 95 runs scored. He would have gone well over 100. I say in his era, he was one of the best shortstops.
So you're talking about a guy who's so fast defensively, and yet they used to throw their gloves out on the field in short left field Well, number one, why did they do that? And number two, how come nobody really got hurt?
Yeah, it's amazing. Nobody tripped over a glove, especially in the outfield, running after a fly ball. But that was what they always, I guess they didn't think much about, you don't bring your glove to the bench. When you're done playing, you drop it, you go back out and pick it up again. So that's
I
what they
often
did.
wondered how Ty Cobb, as great a hitter as he was, how high his average would have been if they didn't have, or lower it would have been if they didn't have those kind of gloves. You look at a glove at the Cooperstown and you say, how did anybody, even if you flip the ball to a guy, how do you catch that ball like that?
You had to use two hands. You had to, because the ball, in the early days, they didn't have any string connecting the fingers. Sometimes if you just had nonchalantly had hand, it would go right through your fingers.
Right.
So you really had to use two hands.
All right, so you go with your first book is about the 1920 Indians, their first World Series champion, and then you go to what?
I skipped to about 1927.
Did you go chronologically, or did you?
Yeah, chronologically. What I was thinking about was, well, what happened? Because Jim Dunn passed away in 22. He had a heart attack and he died. The team went to his wife, and she didn't really run the ball club. She had the front office run it. But I was wondering about what happened to these guys in the 20s and 30s. I mean, they obviously had some ball clubs, and what was going on? So I thought I'd look at the change in ownership in 27 when Mrs. Dunn decided to finally sell the team.
She said she was done.
Yeah, she was done, yeah. In all sense of the word, yeah. Alva Bradley stepped in and bought the team. And I wanted to see what happened under Alva Bradley. What did he bring to the club and what they were like in the late 20s and 30s. So that got the impetus to do it.
So what did he find out?
Well, Bradley was very much wanted the team because he wanted to promote Cleveland. He thought having a good baseball club would bring people to the city. He was on board with the new stadium. It wasn't his idea, but he was all pro building a new stadium downtown, a state-of-the-art facility. People would come from all over the country just to see a ball game there, would spruce up the hotels, bring a lot of money into town. He really was thinking about tourism and promoting Cleveland. Nobody would step up. So he was a very wealthy guy, so he decided, I'll step up with my brother, Chuck, and we'll buy the team. And he got some decent investors in the ball club.
All right, so you're talking about what became Cleveland Municipal Stadium.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
How did that go with its kind of private ownership along with the city?
It was the city owned it. Bradley just signed a lease to play there, but he helped promote it and was on board with bringing the team there. He thought this was the best way to go, but being the guy he wasn't going to sink any money into it. He was a smart guy. Yeah. The city floated $2.5 million in bonds to pay for it. And of course, they didn't know the Depression hit almost exactly when they were going to start construction. The stock market crashed, people went out of work, but they had this commitment to go ahead and build it. So they actually built a stadium in the worst possible economic time.
No, that's the one going on now.
Oh, maybe now you wouldn't want to build a stadium, yes.
When that stadium was built, and to this day you hear people say, well, that was built to get the Olympics. The Olympics were decided to be in Los Angeles before that was ever built.
It was not, yeah. I went through all the papers of the mayors and all that to read about it, and I believe what it was, some leaders in Cleveland, some of the newspaper guys, Ed Bang, who was a very prominent newspaper guy at Cleveland News, he thought it would be a great place for track and field. And he said, you could leave room for track and field. We could bring world-class athletes here for track meets. And I think that's where people got mixed up about the Olympics. I was already set for LA, I believe, even before they made the plans.
Let me go back above your camera shot there before it talked about the 1920 team. Tell me how much the best seat in the house was.
About $1.25, $1.50. That was it. Yeah, 75 cents just to get in. Yeah.
How much was a hot dog?
Hot dog was a dime or 15 cents. So for a quarter, you could get a hot dog and something to drink, and probably a bag of peanuts. So it wasn't horrible to spend $1 at a ball game.
Hal Lebovitz told me when he was in high school, he would sell hot dogs at League Park.
Oh, sure. Those were the guys that made the most money. They got, I forget how much, if they sold it for 15 cents, they got 6 or 7 cents for the hot dog.
Is that right?
Like so they really hustled to sell the hot dogs.
Oh, it was the market.
Yeah. And they also, after the game, they would flock outside and sell the hot dogs for $0.05 or 6 cents. Anyone leave? Oh, I'm going back to the office to work. Yeah, I'm hungry. I'll take 3 hot dogs. Right. They had like an aftermarket for the hot dogs.
So what happened? They win in 20. What happened in those next years through 27?
27.
On the field.
The club had really fallen. They were a second division team after Jim Dunn died. Bradley wanted to rebuild and have a competitive ball club. So in 27, 28, he didn't have much to work with, but he used his money to find minor league guys around the country. He brought in guys like Earl Averill and Wes Farrell.
Good
and
choices.
I'm sorry?
Good choices.
Oh, yeah, very good choices. Yeah, two outstanding guys. Then he built teams with Mel Harder would come in, Willis Hudlin. Later, a fellow would come in the mid-30s. But he built the nucleus for a good ball club. They didn't win a pennant, but they were a team that could play for second or third behind the Yankees or the Tigers.
Scott Longert is with us. We're talking Indians baseball. Starting with 100 years ago, right?
Yes.
And continuing to this day. Let's take a break. We'll come on back. We are with you with cleveland.com. The Northeast Factory Direct, 4 locations. If you include the website, check them out. West 140th Street, Lakeland Boulevard, as well as Freeway Drive. That's in Macedonia. Northeast Factory Direct. Back in a moment, powered by cleveland.com.
Transform your home for the holidays with an authentic Nature Stone garage floor. No more tripping on cracked, uneven concrete. Stop slipping on puddles and standing water. It's the safer, more beautiful garage floor that's easy to clean and never needs replaced. That's why it's backed by Russell's Promise. For a limited time, get more Nature Stone than ever before with up to half your garage floor free. Schedule your free cost estimate easily online today at naturestone.com to qualify for your free flooring. It's not just a floor.
Wow, it's Nature Stone!
There are tastes we remember. Every smell brings the happiness of times gone by. Experience this every time you walk into Gallucci's Italian Foods. Whether you need lunch on the go, a catered party, or that perfect blend of wine, meats, and cheeses, Gallucci's has exactly what you're looking for. Straight from Mama's Kitchen for old world traditions or original experiences. From the tastes you remember to new flavors you'll never forget. Gallucci's is a tasty branch of your family tree.
When it comes to selling you a mattress, most retailers are handing you a long line of extra steps that drive up costs and create confusion. At the Original Mattress Factory, we simplify the mattress shopping experience by building mattresses and box springs in our own local factories and selling them direct to you. It's short, sweet, and simply makes sense. So experience more than just a mattress store. Experience an original, the Original Mattress Factory.
Just started.
Welcome back. More sports and less Levine. Despite the fact we're into November, we've got Scott Longert to talk baseball. It's amazing how far the game has come. The game on the field and off the field.
Oh, my goodness, yeah. Just in talking about the technology. In the 1920 series, you still couldn't, radio was just starting. You couldn't hear play-by-play yet. And now, what you have, everything that you could possibly want. But back then, if you wanted to know about the game, you write it for the newspaper in the morning. That was how you found out about it. And then later in the 20s, radio came to be, and you had another outlet to do it. But and traveling by train, these guys would take 10-hour train trips to get to their next series, and they would go on the road for 3-4 weeks.
You'd also hear that if you walked downtown and were shopping in the department stores, they had those then, by the way.
Yeah, there was a
that
few.
You just walk down the street, you could always hear the game.
Yeah, usually every shop owners had it, and they kept their doors open, kind of like you might want to stop in and check out the game, maybe buy a shirt or buy something there. Yeah, so that was very popular. Yeah.
Was there any? We were going through the name here and Chief Wahoo and all that stuff, and the name changed. They were the Indians when they won in 20, but they had different names, and they tried to pawn off the story about Chief Sock Alexis, which nobody ever really believed. But was there any question about the name of the team at the time? Because there were a couple of switches.
Yeah, there was some wondering what to do about it in different factions. But I think what happened was Charlie Summers, who was still the owner, called in all the reporters from all 4 papers, the baseball reporters, and said, guys, we're not leaving the room until we come up with a name. And they all threw it back and forth, and Indians came up, and they all kind of liked the way it sounded, and they went with it. I think that was the bottom line. I think the other stories are very colorful, but Louis Sock Alexis had already passed away, and if you look at all the newspapers, there's no mention of him
No,
at
he
all.
wasn't that good a player either.
He had the one good 3/4 of a year, and he showed a lot of promise, but that was it. Unfortunately, he became a heavy drinker and alcoholic. He couldn't play ball after that, so that was basically his story.
Let's skip ahead a little bit now, and you get was League Park like was there a wow factor about it, or is it just another stadium that? I mean, 25,000 is a lot of people. But
I think it had, because it was so intimate in a neighborhood at 66 in Lexington,
right.
And you were so close to the field. You could hear the players, and they could hear you. In left field, you were like about 15 feet away from the outfielders. You could scream at them and yell. The outfielders would yell back at the people. I think people liked the idea they could hear what's going on. They could see in the Indians' dugout from the first couple of rows.
You also could leave if you left the game in the 7th inning. They'd ask you to wait until the half inning was over, but they'd let you just cut across the field.
Oh, so yeah, they kind of let you scoot out because there was an exit at the end right field line. Yeah, they could let people out. Yeah.
What about the dimensions of League Park? You had a short, almost like Fenway Park, except for it was right field. It was high and deep.
Yeah.
But center field and left center field was 420, 450.
I think dead center was about 450, 455. That was tremendous poke. I think Jeff Heath in the late 30s hit one off the wall there. That was probably the farthest shot anyone did. I mean, Ruth's home runs over the right field wall.
Right,
they were going out at 300 feet. You don't know how far they went. You know, some people say that some of them might have gone 500 feet. They went over 66. They went over the school, the elementary school, and they went all the way to Euclid or something. But nobody, the ones that they actually saw, I think, was Jeff Heath hit one off the wall there, about 455.
Wow. It's unbelievable stories. If there wasn't a Babe Ruth, they'd almost have to invent him. Just the big size character that he was, how he changed the game. He was probably the most popular guy in the country at that time?
I think so, yeah. Well, you know, his famous thing when he got $90,000 a year, and so the reporter said, well, that's more than the president gets, and Babe said, I had a better year than he did. And it was true for the most part. He was just loved by all the fans and the kids. The kids flocked to him.
Let's go to the next segment here. You got us into the late 20s. Now get us into and out of the 30s.
Yeah, the 30s was the stadium was built. The team went to play at the stadium. The first game there, Mel Harder pitched it against Lefty Grove. We lost it 1-0. They had almost 80,000 people there in the height of the Depression. People did come from all around the country to see this spectacle.
And how much was a ticket for that?
Probably maybe, it's about the same, probably $1.50, $1.25, $1.75. But people willingly paid, even they didn't have it, wanted to see that game. But a week later, attendance was 3,000, 4,000, 5,000. Alva Bradley was a brilliant businessman, and he had a clause in the lease that he signed. If for any reason he didn't like the conditions there or whatever, he could pull the team out. And after the 33 season, he was averaging 7,000 or 8,000 there, plus paying extra help, extra vendors, extra security. He exercised the right with the city. He left the stadium empty, went back to League Park, which was his right.
So complaining about stadiums and attendance is nothing new.
No, not at all. It goes way, way back to that time. The city was stuck with a brand new 80,000-seat stadium, had to pay back almost $3 million in bonds, no team playing there. High school teams were playing there. In the fall, if you were lucky, Ohio State would come and play a game against Navy or Notre Dame or something.
Did they, was there any objection to the way the stadium was going to look or where it was going to be and who was going to get the revenue from it?
There was a little bit of a problem between Bradley and the city because the lease was in his favor completely. He got most of the concession rights and he didn't pay much money for rent. And every time a new mayor came in, they would meet with Bradley and try and tear up the lease and make him pay more money. And Bradley just knew where he stood, refused to do it. Yeah. It even came all the way to Bill Veeck. Veeck knew that he read the lease and said, no, I think I'll let it go. It runs till 49. I think we'll leave it the way it is, knowing he had the big money advantage.
Right now, Smiley One's making it easy for you to invest in new heating or cooling comfort systems without breaking your budget. For a limited time now, take advantage of this special financing for 36 months on select Bryant high-efficiency equipment and make it easy for your family to stay comfortable all year long. Call Smiley One for further details. Scott Longert is here. We're talking the history of the tribe. He's written 5 different books on it. We'll continue our discussion. We are powered by cleveland.com.
We're living in uncertain times, but you don't have to put your future on hold. At Tri-C, you can move ahead while staying safe and saving money. The majority of fall classes will take place online, but we've added a variety of formats to meet your learning needs, and we've taken many steps to keep you safe on campus. Whether you're ready to get started or your 4-year plans have changed, check out Tri-C's programs and resources, because Tri-C is where futures begin.
Well, hello, everyone. Let me tell you a little bit about Brown's Football Insider. For only $3.99 a month, you can get text sent right to your phone each day from me, Dan Lobby, Scott Pasco, and Ellis Williams. In addition to that, you'll receive a Football Insider newsletter every day with special things from us, things that you won't see anywhere else on the site. You'll get breaking news, analysis, features, film breakdown, and things like that. Texting us directly gives you a great chance to cut through the clutter of Facebook, Twitter, other social media, and avoid the trolls. Also, it's the only way to get your questions on the Orange and Brown Talk podcast. So why should you sign up? Try a 14-day free trial. You can cancel at any time. All it takes is one text, but you won't want to cancel. We have hundreds of subscribers join us over the last year. They love it and have stayed with us. We're seeing the Football Insider community grow every week. And it's only $3.99 a month, which is less than 14 cents a day. What I like most about Football Insider is the opportunity to connect with you one-on-one and really communicate with you. So how can you become a Football Insider? You can click on cleveland.com/Browns, the blue banner at the top of the page. Or easier yet, text me at 216-208-3965. Again, that's 216-208-3965.
It takes attention to detail. With your local Bryant dealer, you're getting more than just a technician. You're getting someone who pays attention to your needs and the little things that make a big difference. It takes a dealer you can rely on. And to keep your family warm this winter,
here, let me show you how this works.
It takes Bryant.
Bryant. Whatever it takes.
And to keep your family comfortable, it takes Smiley One Heating and Cooling. Find them at smiley1.com.
Scott Longert is with us. He turned a lifetime fascination with the Cleveland Indians into several books. And they're here and they're available at Amazon.com. Where else?
You can get them online, Barnes & Noble, Books by the Million. And right now, the Buckeye Book Fair is in progress. Normally, we would be there, but it's virtual. But you can buy any one of my books from buckeyebookfair.org, and they are signed as well. You can get a signed
Excellent,
copy.
excellent. All right, along and chronologically, you get out of the 20s into the 30s, and then a guy named Bob Feller shows up. How much did that change the franchise? Although, when you think about the years involved, he lost 4 years to the Navy. So that gets taken off his permanent record, but obviously he won a lot of fans by what he did, as well as DiMaggio and some other players. But tell me what Bob Feller meant to this franchise.
He meant everything. By the mid-30s, people were getting restless. The team was like a third-place ball club. And then out of nowhere comes a 17-year-old with a fastball like Walter Johnson's, even magnified, and he's going to play ball for the Indians. He's our property. That really revitalized fans' interest in the team and excitement again to see this 17-year-old kid come out and throw a baseball.
You know, you also always hear about Van Meter, Iowa, and Bob at the high school. His high school graduation was actually broadcast nationwide. I just can imagine they go, all right, Robert Feller. Yeah, thank you very much. Good night, everybody.
Yeah,
they hear his name and they're out.
Yeah, he was very shy in the early days, so he wouldn't say much. When they had his next year, when they had their Indians luncheon before spring training, all the guys they introduced some guys supposed to come up and say a few words and all that, and sit down, and they called up Bob and said, "Bob, why don't you come up and say howdy?" And he was 18 then. He came up and he went, "Howdy," and he went back to his seat, and all the players fell over laughing because they thought Bob knew to talk, say, "Well, I hope they have a good year," and this and that. And so every player, when they came up there, went up and said, "Howdy," and everybody laughed and laughed at his expense. But he learned then to have a few canned.
You could charge money for saying howdy.
Yeah, to charge money and have a few canned responses there.
I really enjoyed talking to him over the years, and his memory was sensational. Yeah. Although I've always said, who else would argue with him? If he's telling you his story, that's his story.
Yes, yeah, he had quite a memory. I was able to speak with him. He did. He remembered things exactly the way they were, which was great.
Or the way he wanted them to be.
Or he wanted them to be, yeah. But he was quite a guy.
He was quite a guy.
Yes.
Quite, no question about that. All right, but they don't win.
No, they start to improve. You can see the progression going. They have him. They still have Hal Trotsky in his prime.
Right.
Mel Harder in his prime.
Lou Boudreau.
Jeff Heath, the great outfielder. Johnny Allen, a 20-game winner. So they're improving. And they get to about 39. Feller's the best pitcher in baseball, though he's about 20 years old. Lou Boudreau makes his debut, and that's another exciting thing. Boudreau comes up to be the shortstop of the future, and the excitement builds again that it's in 1939, but we're on the verge of having a great ball club. Let's put it together for 1940.
Yeah, but we were talking about names of the Indians and some other team names. These guys got known as the Crybabies.
They did.
Why is that?
Unfortunately, 1940, they were fighting for the pennant, and things looked good. The only problem they had was the manager, Oscar Vitt, and the ball players hated him. He was a loudmouth. He spoke out of turn. He insulted players, and the guys were sick of him. And they had a series in Boston. Harder was off to a slow start in May, but he pitched a great game, and he beat Boston. And all the guys slapped him on the back and said, "Way to go, Mel. You had a great game." And as he came to the bench, Vitt said loud enough for everybody to hear, "I'm glad you won one for all the money we're paying you." And the guys just got, "What? I can't believe he said that." Well, Mel was a nice guy. Mel just nodded and walked away. But the next day, Feller got bombed in Boston. Williams hit homers off of him. And Vitt stood on the top step of the dugout and said, for fans to even hear it, said, "Look at that guy. He's supposed to be my ace. How am I going to win a pennant with that guy pitching?" And all the guys in the team were like, "That's it. You know, he's the best pitcher in baseball." He's already 7-1 in May. And the next day, when the team took a train back home, about 12 guys marched into Alva Bradley's office and demanded Vitt be fired. He didn't do it, but word leaked out, which Bradley told the guys, "Whatever you do, don't speak about this. Let me figure this out." But somebody leaked it to the plane dealer, to Gordon Kobbeldick, the next morning, and it was headlines everywhere. Indians revolt, try to get Vitt fired. So immediately, the first game on the road, fans stood up and yelled in unison, "Cry babies, cry babies." Every stadium they went to, people held up baby dolls, baby bottles. They push carriages on the field, and that's what everybody called them.
The interesting thing, again, I'm going by what I've been told over the years and can't be verified necessarily, that you had, in that case with the Crybabies, and they had the meeting with the owner, and the veteran players went to Bob Feller and say, "You stay out of this meeting because you're young, you don't know what this is all about yet, and you don't want to ruin your reputation."
Yes.
And so he sat it out.
Yeah, also Lou Boudreau was told to sit it out. Ray Mack, who was their second baseman, was told.
Right.
And a couple of pitchers who they acquired during the year were told to stay out of it because they had feared that worst case scenario, these guys would all get suspended. They didn't want guys who had very little to do with it to get suspended. Though Mel Harder was the spokesman for the
Ray
group.
Mack was the second baseman on the team.
Yeah.
And he lived when he was here, he lived in Cleveland Heights, and his son Tom Mack, a Hall of Fame football player,
Yes.
was one of the greatest, well, probably the greatest player at Cleveland Heights High School.
Oh, I think he's a Hall of Famer, I believe.
Yeah, that's what. Yeah.
Yeah, he also had a younger son, Dick Mack, who played guard for Ohio State under Woody Hayes, and I think Dick is still in Cleveland right now.
Pretty good.
Yeah.
When we mentioned Ray Mack, I was thinking back on Bill Wamby that we talked about from the 20s team, the second baseman, and Danny Coughlin was working at Channel 8, and I'm going to say this is the late 60s. And when Wamby lived in Lakewood at the time, and Danny got Wamby to come out to League Park. I don't know how they got in, but they did. Well, knowing Danny, I guess I know how he got in. Just kidding.
Yes.
And they reenacted Wamby's unassisted triple play. Can you imagine that?
Yeah, to see Bill back out there again at second base doing that, yeah, some many years later.
Two guys with jackets on, no Indian shirts. What are those two old guys doing?
Yeah, that must have been quite a sight.
Yeah. There's also, this is before your first book. If you go to downtown Bedford, if that's what they call it, there's a park near the post office, and there's a statue of Elmer Flick.
Yes.
Now, Flick was from Euclid and is a Hall of Famer also.
Yeah, Flick is a Hall of Famer. Yeah, he was actually born and raised in Bedford, and it took him a while, but they raised some money to build a statue down there.
Right.
He lived there all his life. He lived to be I believe, close to 90. He was always.
Well, I was playing sandlot ball in the '60s, and somebody looked over and says, "What's that old guy doing there?" And there was a guy with a notepad taking notes, and it turned out it was Elmer Flick. They had a thing in those days. I don't think they do it anymore, called Bird Dog.
Yeah.
A Bird Dog Scout. That would be a coach, a high school coach or a sandlot coach or an umpire, whatever, and they would help. If they saw somebody that they thought was potentially a good player, they would pay them to give them the information. And if the guy made the big leagues, they made what was considered in those days a considerable amount of money.
Yeah, that's what he did that for a number of years. He went around all the local high schools and took notes on guys and made recommendations.
Let's take a break. Scott Longert is with us. We're talking Indians baseball from over 100 years ago. That's not possible. Well, maybe it is.
It is.
It just seems like 100 when they don't win. Back in a moment, powered by cleveland.com.
Transform your home for the holidays with an authentic Nature Stone basement floor. Add more livable space, inhibit the growth of mold and mildew, and improve air quality for your family. It's the healthier, more beautiful basement floor that's easy to clean and never needs replaced. That's why it's backed by Russell's Promise. For a limited time, get more Nature Stone than ever before with up to half your basement floor free. Schedule your free cost estimate easily online today at naturestone.com to qualify for your free flooring. It's not just a floor.
Wow, it's Nature Stone.
When it comes to selling you a mattress, most retailers are handing you a long line of extra steps that drive up costs and create confusion. At the Original Mattress Factory, we simplify the mattress shopping experience by building mattresses and box springs in our own local factories and selling them direct to you. It's short, sweet, and simply makes sense. So experience more than just a mattress store. Experience an original, the Original Mattress Factory.
Presque Isle Downs and Casino has sports betting. Use one of our 50 state-of-the-art Bet America kiosks to place your bet and watch your favorite games on one of our many HD televisions or visit our sportsbook area. Only at Presque Isle Downs and Casino.
Scott Longert is with us. He never stops churning out these books. Probably, well, a name that everybody knows if they know anything about baseball is Cy Young. You know, the Cy Young Award. You know that he won 511 games, lost 313. Nobody talks about that, but
no.
It's pretty good. Records that'll never be broken. Cy Young from Ohio. What do you got? You wrote on him.
Yeah, this is actually a book for children, for school-age kids about 8 to 13. This is what it looks like. It's a nice rendering of Cy when he was playing for Boston after he had unfortunately left Cleveland. My editors approached me to talk about, we do a lot of adult books and we have a series for young readers. Would you be interested in writing a book for children? And I'd never done it before. I thought, yeah, but I don't know how. And they said, well, we'll help you through it. So I went ahead and did the research on Cy. And he really was an interesting guy. He had a lot of different facets.
What did you find out about him that you didn't know?
About Cy, he was a dedicated farmer. That he had his own farm, and he would work until it was time to leave for spring training. The minute the season ended, he went right back home, back on the farm. He chopped his own wood. He would chop 100 pieces of wood a day if he felt like it. He also would run. He'd wear his farm clothes. He'd run several miles a day in the off season around his farm to keep in shape. And he would come.
Sounds like Feller.
Yeah, he was one of those kind of guys. And he also was extremely modest. That he didn't think anything at all about being a celebrity. Everyone in town said, "Here comes Old Cy." They just called him Old Cy, even when he was about 31 years old. And he was just one of the townspeople in Newcomerstown. And
what would a guy like Cy Young? What was the most money he made in a year?
I think a contract with Boston for $4,000. He was not a tough guy to negotiate, even though he probably could have fought for more money.
What year are you talking about?
That was probably 1904, 1905. But when he left Boston to come to Cleveland in 1909, he was finished there. They held the Cy Young Day for him. They gave the entire amount of the gate receipts to him to take with him.
Nice.
And that was about $8,500 that he was there. So in addition to his about $4,000, he took which in 1908 or 9, $12,000 was a pretty good sum.
I'm going back to what you said earlier about the possibility of the team leaving Cleveland back then. That never happened. but the threat has always been there.
Yeah, it goes back to 1899 when the owner, Mr. Robeson, sent all the good players, Young included, to St. Louis because he bought the St. Louis franchise. You could own as many as you wanted, and he made.
So he traded to himself?
He traded to himself for a better team. He thought he'd make more money, and there was no good ball players left in Cleveland. We were the laughing stock of the league, and called the Misfits, and our franchise was revoked in 1899. We got it back in 1901 when Charlie Summers started the American League. But from that point on, it was always about losing the ball club or someone coming in and taking the club. Yeah, that's been a constant theme forever.
Is there tape or film of big games at League Park?
I've only seen like segments, 10 seconds here and there, one from 1919, a couple guys warming up. I understand there's a little bit of footage from Pathé News, from a French company that filmed a bit of the 1920 World Series. I'm guessing it might be 60 seconds, 90 seconds. That's all I've ever heard of.
Fascinating.
Yeah.
What was the most, of all the books you wrote, what was the most surprising thing that you found out in checking out the history of the team?
Look, there's quite a bit. I have to think each one. I think probably the 1920 ball club. When Jim Dunn bought the team, he had no experience. He can imagine like an owner coming in now alone, no experience owning a baseball team. His only thing was he was a fan, yet he became one of the best owners. He somehow, almost magically overnight, acquired the ability to find talent. And like he spent the $50,000 to bring in Speaker, which was the most money anyone ever paid for a ball player. And others said, I can't believe this Jim Dunn, who doesn't know anything, spent $50,000 for a ball player. But that was the cornerstone of our World Series team.
Do you know if any of those owners at any time tried to make a run at Babe Ruth? I mean, obviously the story about Boston is No Nanette, the Broadway play, was financed by that trade to Boston.
Yeah, Boston and New York had a questionable relationship in those days because that owner sent a lot of ball players to the Yankees. I think there was kind of an under-the-table thing about, if you're going to sell somebody, let us know first. We'll buy him. I don't think the other owners had a chance.
It became Kansas City later.
Yeah. The other owners had a chance to do what they wanted to do. So I don't think anyone ever was able to make a serious run at Ruth.
Did Indians fans, and you talked earlier about the attendance, which is pretty impressive to me. Did they put pressure on the team to win? Or did they just say, oh, we're in the big leagues, that's as good as we can get?
I don't think there was tremendous pressure on him, really, to win a pennant. I don't think the ownership pushed him very much, except in 1940. There was a real drive to win it then, which they came in second. They lost to the Tigers on the third last day of the season. But there was a push then. But otherwise, it was play as good as you can. I think Mr. Bradley, even in the Depression years, was making money for his stockholders. Not a lot, but they were on the positive side for most of the time. That was the main thing. The owner was making money and fans were coming out, so don't mess with the formula.
Bill Veeck took over.
Yes.
You don't have a book on him yet?
There, it's coming. It will be coming.
How about calling it Veeck as in Wreck?
Yeah, I think that might have been done. It's a good title, really.
I AMC'd a dinner one night. They were honoring Bill Veeck, the late Bill Veeck, and his son, Mike Veeck, who owned minor league teams, sent a videotape to us, and he said, I know you're all there to honor the late Bill Veeck. I need to tell you something. He's not late. He's not going to be there.
Yeah, that's typical Veeck style. Yeah, Veeck was amazing. That was another surprise, that Veeck was a little underhanded in buying the Indians in '46. He never met with Alva Bradley. He went through the back door and talked to the stockholders quietly, because Bradley didn't own a majority of the team, but the stock owners let him carte blanche. And he went to feasibility. If I buy you guys out, will you go with me? And they agreed. And Bradley never knew until a few days before the actual sale he was losing the ball club. He made a last-ditch effort to buy everybody out, but they said Mr. Veeck made the first offer, we're going with Mr. Veeck. And I didn't know that.
Let's take a break. We're going to come back one more time with Scott Longert. More sports and less Levine, powered by cleveland.com.
Transform your home for the holidays with an authentic Nature Stone garage floor. No more tripping on cracked, uneven concrete. Stop slipping on puddles and standing water. It's the safer, more beautiful garage floor that's easy to clean and never needs replaced. That's why it's backed by Russell's Promise. For a limited time, get more Nature Stone than ever before with up to half your garage floor free. Schedule your free cost estimate easily online today at naturestone.com to qualify for your free flooring. It's not just a floor.
Wow, it's Nature Stone.
There are tastes we remember. Every smell brings the happiness of times gone by. Experience this every time you walk into Gallucci's Italian Foods. Whether you need lunch on the go, a catered party, or that perfect blend of wine, meats, and cheeses, Gallucci's has exactly what you're looking for. Straight from Mama's kitchen for old world traditions or original experiences. From the tastes you remember to new flavors you'll never forget. Gallucci's is a tasty branch of your family tree.
The Ohio Lottery Partners in Education program recognizes role model students and teachers from across Ohio. Nominations can now be done completely online. To nominate a deserving teacher or student, go to ohiolottery.com. In the About section, find Partners in Education. There you will find links to the nomination forms. Students kindergarten through 12th grade can be academic all-stars. Teachers can be honored as a Teacher of the Month. The Ohio Lottery Partners in Education, where stars shine.
Scott Longert is here. We're talking Indians baseball. He's written, a century full of books on the Cleveland Indians. How about that?
Yeah, a lot of time has passed. Definitely.
Yeah, started in 1920 with the championship teams. You started talking about surprises or interesting things. Is there one? Is Bob Feller the most interesting character from a baseball and personal standpoint?
He's way up there because of his coming on as a 17-year-old and taking the league by storm, then being one of the first guys to enlist in the Navy when World War II broke out.
Right.
He didn't. Most guys said, "Well, I'll wait till they call me. I'll play as long as I can." Feller never considered that. He enlisted and he was gone until 1945, and then he came back and had a phenomenal year in '46. So he was quite a character in his day.
Branch Rickey gets a lot of credit for Jackie Robinson. He, of course, was the general manager of the Brooklyn Dodgers at the time. But the Cleveland people, led by Bill Veeck and Lou Boudreau, didn't get all that much credit for Larry Doby.
Yeah, it's unfortunate. You know, Doby broke the color barrier in the American League, and Bill Veeck had the guts to do it. But because Robinson was already there and all the focus was on him, Larry didn't get the due he really deserved. And neither did Veeck get the credit, even though in '48, Veeck would bring Satchel Paige to Cleveland. He would have Doby and Veeck on the ball club.
Well, the other thing is, even though Robinson was first, many people, if they lived in an American League city, they would have seen Doby and Page before they might have seen Robinson.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, that it was a huge deal in Cleveland to bring Larry here and around the American League, but it didn't get the publicity and the scrutiny that the Robinson did.
We've got the tape of it. We'll show it someday. That Doby, Veeck calls up Doby. He comes in and he introduces himself to Boudreau, the player manager, and he says, "What position you play?" He says, "Second base." He said, "Not on this team, you don't.
Yeah.
Can you play the outfield?" He never played the outfield, and all of a sudden
Right.
he's the starting center fielder.
Yeah, the interesting thing was they had no place to put him when they signed him and brought him up. Joe Gordon was playing second, Boudreau short, Keltner third. How do you replace any of those three? You're not going to do that.
You don't.
So Doby rode the bench and pinched hit most of the time, which it's kind of wondering why didn't they send him to their AAA team and get some experience?
Just let him play.
Yeah, or when Eddie Robinson got injured at the end of the season, why not put Doby at first base for the last 20 games? They didn't do that.
In '48, they didn't make many mistakes.
They made zero in '48. Everything just went perfectly. Every move they made worked out. Every guy that Bill Veeck signed in the offseason and early on, he brought in Russ Christopher from Philadelphia to be a relief pitcher. Russ had a very bad heart, and doctors had urged him to quit baseball because he really was a sick man, but he refused. He famously said, "If I got to die, that's okay, but because there's no better place than to do it on a baseball field." And he was serious. And Veeck brought him to Cleveland. He had 17 saves in the summer of '48, pitched marvelously. The other guys he brought in, Bob Kennedy, he brought in a trade to play the outfield. Kennedy played very well.
Kennedy, that's the same Kennedy who wound up as GM of the Cubs, right?
May have been, yeah. He played well. Keltner had a career season. Hit over 30 home runs. Boudreau was the MVP. Gordon hit 32 home runs. Everybody was. Jim Hegan had a tremendous year.
You know, you're throwing numbers out there like And people are saying, well, that's no big deal, 30, 32. There weren't guys in the major leagues in those days. Not many guys were hitting 30 home runs or more.
DiMaggio, Williams were the mainstays, but very few guys could equal them in the 40s. Very few guys hit over 30.
Right.
Hit 35 was like, you got to be kidding me.
Do you get calls from around the country wanting, maybe you can answer some questions for them, or you're a popular guy on the circuit?
I do get calls and emails from people looking for backup info for things that they're doing. Some guys, sports writers, are doing an article, want to double fact check something. Yeah, I get that. I do.
What do you foresee in the very near future for this team?
I see some issues, definitely. They're relying heavily on their pitching staff. Our pitching staff has to be near perfect for them to contend, because we're all assuming that Lindor is already out the door. So our pitching has to be fantastic. If it is, I think we have a good chance always. But if something happens to one of our starting pitchers, if they have a bad elbow or come down with something, we're gonna be in trouble there. I think they're really dependent on having the best pitching staff in baseball to win a pennant and get into a World Series.
All right, great stuff. Scott Longert, show the championship one.
Sure, we show our favorites.
The best they could be.
Yeah.
Great book. If you're an Indians fan, love the history of it, check out any of these books by Scott Longert. Scott, thanks so much for joining us.
Thanks, Les.
We'll see you soon. That'll do it for us. Of all the shows I've ever done, this was the most recent.